Coming into this season, Tee Higgins seemed destined for anywhere but Cincinnati. Now, it looks like he could be returning to the Bengals long term. What Joe Burrow said in the big change that Tee Higgins made that could impact his future. Hi again, everyone, and welcome into Cincinnati Bengals Talk. I'm James Rapien of BengalsTalk.com. Thanks to each and every one of you that have subscribed, that have rang the bell, that have supported us over the past three and a half years, whatever it's been. It's been a fun ride, and we're not going anywhere, and neither is Tee Higgins. Oh, you like what I did there? Neither is Tee Higgins. By the way, today's video is brought to you by Rivertown Inkery, rivertowninkery.com. You see this awesome crew neck. Whether it's an awesome crew neck like this, whether it's any orange and black gear that you can think of, Rivertown Inkery has you covered. They have two locations, one in Oakley, one in Findlay Market in downtown Cincinnati, or you can just go to rivertowninkery.com and get in on all of the awesome gear that just ages perfect. This is multiple years old, and it feels as comfortable as the day I picked it up at Rivertown Inkery. But let's get into Tee Higgins and Tee Higgins' future. And first, and you're going to hear from Joe Burrow in just a few minutes and get my thoughts on it, because I wasn't in Dallas, full disclosure. Wasn't in Dallas for the game. We went live afterwards. So those that joined our live chat, I certainly are aware that I was not in Dallas for the game. But afterward, Joe Burrow makes the story, as much as it was about 27-20, snapping a 3-game losing streak, all of these things. It was like, oh man, T. He wants T. And so this was my first chance on Wednesday to talk to Joe. And I had to ask about that. And so we'll get to that coming up in just a few minutes. But Tee Higgins has made a huge change. And that change, coupled with Joe Burrow's comments, is extremely significant when we talk about Tee Higgins' future in Cincinnati. Because there's been a lot of people that said, well, there's no way they're going to pay T, including me. There's no way they're going to pay T. You know, David Mulugheta, he's his agent. David Mulugheta is going to want a ton of money and a ton of guaranteed money, and the Bengals aren't going to do that when they're already paying Joe and they plan on paying Jamar. I was guilty. Well, David Mulugheta is no longer Tee Higgins' agent. Kelsey Conway of the Cincinnati Enquirer reported that David Mulugheta, Tee Higgins, they broke up. They parted ways. Whose decision was it? We can speculate. Who knows? Quite frankly, it does matter, because maybe this is part of T's plan to stay in Cincinnati, part of the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Tee Higgins plan. Here's why it's significant, though, is the way David Mulugheta has negotiated. The Bengals, and it's not David's fault. He's a heck of an agent, but he's not going to blink in a staring contest, not going to blink at all. And some guys just want to play football and make a lot of money. And so maybe Tee Higgins was like, look, I want to stay in Cincinnati. And David's like, well, we can get more money if we go to the market. And she's like, yeah, but I like it in Cincinnati, and I'll take a little less to stay. And David might have been like, yeah, but got to go to the market, get you more money. And T will get it if he hits the market. And the Bengals shouldn't let him hit the market because, well, what you'll hear from Joe Burrow in just a second. It's significant. David Mulugheta represented Jesse Bates, still does, and Jesse Bates, well, signed elsewhere. The Bengals were never really all the way in on I don't want to say keeping Jesse Bates, but in on pleasing David Mulugheta in what Mulugheta was asking for to sign Jesse Bates. The Bengals wanted to keep Bates. I think Bates wanted to stay in Cincinnati, but he went the other route because the Bengals don't give the type of guarantees, the type of contract. Fine, whatever you want to say. Maybe Tee Higgins is willing to take a little bit of a haircut, to take a little less guaranteed money, or maybe Joe is willing to do what we've already talked about this week he could do with restructuring his deal, and I think he will do that. Look, this is really significant, and I think now there's, like I mentioned earlier this week after Joe's comments on Monday Night Football, like the doors just kind of cracked, and it seemed like it was locked and welded shut, and now the door's cracked on Tee Higgins returning. I think the door flung open, and it flung open when you combine Kelsey Conway's report with this exchange I had with Joe Burrow. You'll hear Laurel Fowler in the middle of this as well. She asked a really good question about Tee Higgins' future. So you'll hear that. This is about a minute long, and I let it off by asking Joe how important Tee Higgins is, not just to the final 4 games of the season, but to this team moving forward and this organization in their future?
He's very important. I think you just look at, it's not even just his production, it's his presence. It's how he comes to work every day. It's how the defenses have to play us when he's out there. T plays such a big part in what we do here and has for 5 years now that I don't think you can quite put a value on that, I would say.
Going back to T, if the front office isn't able to make that work, would you be disappointed in him? Would that change your...
I'd be very disappointed in that, yeah. Yeah, we'll see after the season and have those discussions about, what we feel needs to happen and the things everybody has to do to do what we want, keep the guys around that we need, and bring in the guys that we to fill some holes that we need. So those discussions will be had, at the end of the year.
It's fair to say that T is a need?
T is a need, yes.
I thought all of that was important. You can't put a value on that, is one of the quotes Joe Burrow used. I would be very disappointed. He is a need. T is a need. I confirm that. Joe has never talked like this. He never talked like this about Jesse Bates. And not that he didn't love Jesse and want Jesse back, but I think that this is very clear, is that Joe Burrow is saying, look, we haven't kept our good players. We are not going to be banking on not having T moving. We need T. We need Jamar. We need this core, and you got to build around it. And boy, oh boy, from Tee Higgins changing agents to Joe Burrow now doubling and then really tripling down, because he made the comments Monday night. Then he doubles down when he says you can't really put a value on it. And then he said he would be disappointed if they couldn't re-sign T. And then he goes on to say, when talking about essentially needs and wants, oh, T is a need. That's it. This is called feet to the fire. This is called, all right, Bengals front office, you're going to give me T, you're going to give me Jamar. And I love it. And maybe the Bengals are like, yeah, we can't negotiate with David Mulugheta. Like, there's just no way we're going to be able to get something done. It's been impossible, whatever. Well, now he's out of the picture as well. So I think it's so interesting, because I had been preparing people, and Joe sees this. I think Joe honestly sees it. They have weaknesses. They have obvious needs. And if you open up that Tee Higgins spot, if Tee Higgins just isn't on the roster next year, wide receiver might be their biggest need. It might be. And I like Andre Yosavash, but if it's Andre Yosavash, Jamar Chase, and then what else? Jermaine Burton, he's given us 0 reasons to be confident in him. Charlie Jones, I like Charlie a lot. You haven't seen him on the field. And then that's it. All right, well, that's not it. That can't be it. And I think Joe realizes that, because you're going to have to make changes in the offensive line room and on defense. And there are going to be a lot of people that push back and say, oh, well, you can't pay T, pay Jamar, and yes, you can. You absolutely can. And keeping your high-end players, Tee Higgins is the 4th best player on the team. Any debate? Joe, Jamar, Trey, T, right? Who's better? Give you a second. You don't want to give up your 4th best player and then try to convince everyone that you're going to be better. That's it. Of course you have to draft well. Of course you have to find the right value free agents around them. Of course you have to get the next Chidobe Awuzie, or the next Trey Hendrickson's going to be hard, but the next Larry Ogunjobi, a free agent that's going to make an impact as a pass rusher. It's going to have to happen. But I love this. I love it from Joe Burrow. I like what I've seen from T. We'll see if we hear from Tee Higgins on Thursday. I'm excited about that. If so, you better believe you're going to see that right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. So please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, support our sponsor, Rivertown Inkery, by going to rivertowninkery.com, getting all the gear you could want, need, dream about for Christmas. And for Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien. If you're looking for more, check out bengalstalk.com. Thank you so much for watching Cincinnati Bengals Talk.